She didn't plan on crying at work. But there she was, in the tiny diner bathroom, gripping the sink until her knuckles turned white. Outside, she could still hear him barking at the other waitress. That same old man. The one who never smiled. The one who seemed to take pleasure in making her feel small. Every morning he sat at the same table, ordered the same black coffee, complained it was too cold, too bitter, too slow. He didn't know she'd been up all night caring for her sick mom. He didn't know she was dodging eviction notices. He didn't know she was so tired she could barely stand. But she served him anyway, with shaking hands and a practiced smile. Because she needed this job. She needed every single tip to survive. She thought he saw nothing, but he was watching. Every tear she wiped away. Every time she bit her tongue instead of snapping back. Every moment she chose kindness over anger. And what she didn't know was that he wasn't just any customer. He was the millionaire owner of the entire chain. And he was about to change her life forever. If you believe kindness matters even when no one's watching, stay with me. Like this video to help share her story. Comment if you've ever had to swallow your pride just to get through the day. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, twist-filled stories that prove one act of grace can change everything. The bell over the diner door chimed every time someone walked in. But she barely noticed it anymore. Her feet hurt so badly she wasn't sure she'd make it to closing time. She wore the same old black sneakers, duct-taped on the side where the sole split open. Her apron was stained with coffee rings she couldn't scrub out. Hair tied back hastily with a fraying elastic band. But the smile that she forced every single day. Good morning. What can I get for you? Cheerful, practiced, automatic. Inside, she was screaming, counting tips before they even hit the table, wondering if she had enough for groceries, if her landlord would give her another week, if her mother's medication could wait one more day. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't uneducated. She just got stuck. Life had a way of beating the plans out of you. She picked up double shifts when she could, covered for coworkers who needed the day off, smiled at rude customers, laughed at jokes she didn't find funny, because rent didn't care if she was tired, bills didn't care if she was sad, and her mother needed her. Some nights, after closing, she'd sit in the break room and let herself cry. Just for 5 minutes. Just enough to feel it. Then she'd wipe her eyes, clock out, and walk home in the dark. No one tipped for that part. No one saw. But she kept going. Because that's what you do when you have no other choice. The diner itself was nothing special. Just an aging building with a flickering neon sign that buzzed at night like a dying firefly. The windows were streaked from years of grime, no matter how hard they scrubbed. Booths with cracked red vinyl seats. The Formica counter chipped at the edges. Coffee rings permanently etched into every surface. But it was alive. Always alive. Mornings were a rush of sleepy commuters, shuffling in with bed hair and newspapers tucked under their arms. They'd mutter their orders without looking up. Black coffee, 2 sugars, bacon and eggs to go. She memorized them all. Not because anyone cared, but because it was the only way to keep things moving. The boss would yell if the line backed up. Customers would leave if they waited too long. Afternoons were quieter, but not easier. That was when the old men came in, grumbling about the government and the weather, nursing refills for hours to avoid going home to empty apartments. And then there were the families, the ones she envied the most. Parents cutting pancakes for sticky-fingered toddlers. Teenagers rolling their eyes at dad jokes. Laughter echoing off the greasy walls. She'd paste on her smile and refill their syrup without letting the ache show. Because that wasn't her life. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Behind the counter, the staff bustled with a tired camaraderie. Cooks yelling out orders. The dishwasher cursing as he banged pans. A bell ringing every time food was ready. She had co-workers who felt like family. Maria, who'd been there 15 years and mothered everyone whether they wanted it or not. Kenny, who made terrible jokes to hide how hard things were at home. They all had their own tragedies. their own reasons for being there. No one was getting rich serving bottomless coffee for $2 a cup. They did it because they had no choice. Because someone had to. But the boss didn't see that. He was always hovering at the register, eyes on the clock, barking at anyone who lingered too long with a customer. Keep moving. Don't chat. Don't give away free refills to your friends. He had no patience for sob stories. No interest in why they needed an extra shift. She hated him, in a dull, exhausted way. But she needed him. Needed this job. Because no one else was hiring. Because the bills kept coming. Because life didn't pause when you were tired. And in the middle of all that noise, all that scraping by, he would show up. That old man. The one who made it all 10 times worse. But that part of the story was coming. It was a Thursday. She remembered because the rain hadn't let up all morning, and the diner smelled like wet coats and brewing coffee. Customers tracked in puddles, their umbrellas dripping onto the cracked floor. She'd mopped it twice already before he even walked in. She was behind the counter wiping the laminated menus when the bell over the door jingled. She didn't look up at first. She just said her usual, practiced line. "Welcome in. Sit wherever you like." No one responded. But she felt it. A presence. Heavy. Disapproving. When she did look, he was standing there, glowering like the whole world offended him just by existing. Older, maybe late 60s. Gray hair, combed back but still wet from the rain. Dark overcoat buttoned up to the throat. Eyes sharp. Hard. Judging. She offered him her customer smile. Thin. Polite. "Coffee to start?" He grunted. Didn't say yes. Didn't say no. Just lowered himself into a booth by the window with a loud, exhausted sigh. She watched the rain beating against the glass behind him. Somehow it matched his mood perfectly. Taking a deep breath, she filled a chipped mug. Her hands trembled just slightly. She hated that. Hated that customers could make her feel this small. She set the mug down in front of him carefully. Cream. Sugar. He didn't look at her. Just scowled at the steam rising off the coffee. "I said black last time. Can't you remember anything?" It stung. Sharp as a slap. She forced herself to breathe. Counted to 3 in her head. Sorry about that. Black coffee. Got it. She wanted to scream. Throw the pot at him. Tell him exactly how little she was paid to deal with people like him. But she didn't. She couldn't. Rent was due. Her mom's prescription needed filling. She was already behind on the electricity. So she smiled. A tight, forced thing. And walked away. From behind the counter she could hear him muttering. Something about lazy kids who didn't know how to work. About respect. About standards. The words dug in. Because she was working. So damn hard. Harder than he'd ever know. Maria caught her eye from the other end of the diner and mouthed, "Ignore him." But it wasn't that easy. Not when you had to go back and ask for his order. Not when you had to refill his cup with that same fake smile. Not when you had to swallow your pride over and over and over. She hated him immediately. Because he didn't see her. Didn't want to see her. Just another face in a diner uniform. Disposable. Forgettable. Or so she thought. The lunch rush ended late that day. She cleared the last table as the rain hammered the roof like angry fingers. Silverware clinked in the bin. The smell of burnt coffee hung heavy in the air. Maria gave her a tired smile. "You good?" She nodded automatically. But she wasn't good. Not even close. The old man had left. But his words hadn't. They lingered like sour milk. "Can't you remember anything? Lazy. Useless." She tried not to let it show, but Maria noticed anyway. Because Maria always noticed. "Ignore him," she said gently, stacking plates. "Some people are just born mean." She forced a smile. "Yeah." But her voice cracked. Maria's eyes softened. "Hey, 5 minutes. Go." She didn't argue. Just handed over her apron and slipped into the cramped bathroom at the back of the diner. closed the door, locked it, and let herself fall apart. She stared at herself in the mirror, eyes ringed with purple shadows, cheeks hollowed, hair frizzy from the steam and rain. Her uniform clung damply to her skin. Coffee stains, ketchup stains, impossible to wash out no matter how hard she tried. She hated how she looked. But more than that, she hated feeling so weak. She pressed her palms against the sink and dropped her head. A sob broke loose before she could stop it. Then another. All the things she held back during the shift came pouring out. I'm so tired. I'm so scared. I can't keep doing this. Rent was overdue. Again. The landlord had slipped the pink notice under her door that morning. Her mom's prescription was waiting at the pharmacy. They wouldn't release it without payment. She felt the walls closing in, crushing her. No way out. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Couldn't afford to piss off the boss. Couldn't afford to stand up for herself. Because if she did, she'd lose everything. The tears ran hot down her cheeks. She didn't bother wiping them at first. There was no one to see. Just 5 minutes. Let me fall apart for 5 minutes. Then she heard Maria knock softly on the door. Sweetie, you okay? She sniffed hard, cleared her throat. Yeah, just give me a sec. Maria didn't push, didn't judge, just waited quietly outside. Because everyone who worked there had done this at least once. Cried in that bathroom. Pretended everything was fine when it wasn't. She splashed water on her face. Rubbed the redness from her eyes. Forced the tears back down. Get it together. Smile. Go back out there. Because rent didn't care if she cried. Bills didn't care about her exhaustion. And customers definitely didn't care about her problems. She unlocked the door. Stepped back into the diner. Maria gave her a look full of quiet understanding. No words. Just a nod. She nodded back. Picked up her apron. Tied it around her waist. And went back to work. Because that's what survivors do. It was 2 days before she saw him again. The old man. The one who'd made her cry in the bathroom. She'd hoped he wouldn't come back. Hoped maybe he'd found somewhere else to drink his too bitter coffee and insult the waitstaff. But hope was in short supply around here. It was another rainy morning. The diner smelled like wet coats and burnt toast. Steam clung to the windows, making everything outside look like a blurred watercolor. She was wiping down the counter when she heard the bell over the door. That awful jingle that never meant anything good. She didn't even need to look. She felt it. That cold, judging stare. She turned slowly. There he was. Same overcoat, dripping onto the floor. Same scowl carved into his face like it had been there for decades. She forced her mouth into what she hoped passed for a smile. Good morning. Booth or counter? He didn't answer. Just grunted and stomped to the same booth by the window. Like he owned it. She grabbed the coffee pot. Her hands trembled a little. She hated that he did that to her. Hated that she cared so much. As she approached, she took a deep breath. Counted to 3. Remembered rent. Mom's medicine. No other options. Coffee. He didn't look at her. Didn't even grunt this time. Just held out his cup like she was a servant. She poured. Carefully. Made sure not to spill. Not to give him another reason to sneer. He didn't say thank you. Of course not. He just wrapped his gnarled fingers around the mug and took a slow sip. Tastes like dishwater. She felt it like a slap. Hot tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back. Bit her lip so hard it nearly bled. Forced herself to keep standing there. I'm sorry about that, sir. I'll make sure it's fresh next time. He snorted. Doubt it. She turned away quickly. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She set the pot back on the warmer and wiped her hands on her apron even though they weren't wet. Maria caught her eye from the kitchen pass. Raised an eyebrow. You okay? She nodded once. Lied with her eyes. The other staff avoided his table like it was cursed. She didn't blame them. He barely spoke except to complain. About the service, the food, the noise, the music, even the other customers. But she had to serve him. It was her section, her responsibility. And every time she walked over there, she felt smaller, dumber, like she wasn't even a person anymore, just a uniform and a fake smile. She thought about quitting that night. Again. She sat at the tiny table in her apartment with the overdue bills spread out like an accusation. Mom coughed quietly from the bedroom. She rubbed her temples and felt the tears threaten again. I can't quit. I can't. Because there was no safety net. No second chances. Just this job. This hell. And that old man who seemed determined to remind her how worthless she was. But she set her alarm for 5 a.m. anyway. Because she had to. Because someone had to take care of things. Because there was no one else. She didn't know why she kept trying. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was just who she was. The next morning she woke up before dawn, same as always. She splashed cold water on her face to chase the sleep away. Pulled her uniform over tired limbs. Braided her hair so it wouldn't fall into customers' plates. As she buttoned her apron, she told herself, today will be better. Even though she didn't really believe it. The diner was quiet when she got there. She liked those early minutes before the rush. When the coffee pot gurgled softly and she could wipe down the counter without anyone yelling at her. When she could almost pretend she wasn't trapped. Maria arrived next. Gave her that knowing look. You okay? She nodded. Always nodded. Because there wasn't time to talk about feelings. Not when eggs needed scrambling and toast needed buttering and customers would be coming through the door any second. And they did. The regulars. The commuters. The families. And him. She saw the old man's shadow first, stretching long across the tiles as he pushed open the door. The bell over the door gave its annoying little jingle. Her stomach dropped. He scowled at her the second their eyes met. She felt the tears threaten immediately, but she wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Smile. Just smile. She grabbed the coffee pot and walked over. Slowly. Deliberately. Practicing her breathing so her voice wouldn't shake. Good morning, sir. He didn't answer. Of course not. Just shoved his empty cup toward her without looking up. She took it gently. Refilled it carefully. Made sure not to spill a drop. I made sure it's fresh this time. He snorted. Didn't say thank you. Didn't even grunt. Just lifted it to his lips and sipped. She held her breath. Hoped. Still tastes like dishwater. The words sliced through her like a knife. But she didn't let her face fall. Didn't let her shoulders slump. Didn't cry. She smiled. Tight. Polite. Professional. I'll try again tomorrow. He actually paused at that. Looked at her. Really looked at her. She didn't know what he saw. But for a split second, she thought there was something in his eyes. Regret. Recognition. Sadness. But then it was gone. And he turned back to his coffee without another word. She walked back to the counter on shaking legs. Maria was watching her. Eyebrows raised. Eyes filled with worry. She just shrugged. What could she say? She needed this job. She needed these tips. She needed to keep trying. That night, as she lay awake in bed, she thought about quitting. Again. But the image of her mother in the next room kept her there. Kept her trapped. Kept her kind. Because she couldn't afford to be anything else. It was a slow afternoon. The rush had died down. Dirty plates were stacked high near the sink. The smell of burnt coffee lingered stubbornly in the air. The neon open sign buzzed like it might burn out at any second. She leaned her elbows on the counter and rubbed her eyes. She felt the exhaustion in her bones. No amount of coffee could fix this kind of tired. Maria sidled up beside her, towel slung over her shoulder. She was older, tougher, the kind of woman who'd seen everything twice. But she had a soft spot for her. You okay? She didn't answer right away. Just shrugged. Because saying no out loud felt like giving up. Maria nudged her gently with her elbow. He came in again today? She let out a shaky breath. Nodded. Eyes stinging. Maria sighed. That old bastard. If it were up to me, I'd kick him out on his ass. That made her laugh. Just a little. It was enough to make the tears spill over. She swiped them away quickly, but Maria saw. Sweetheart, don't let him get to you. He's not worth it. She shook her head. Her voice broke when she spoke. It's not just him, Maria. It's everything. I'm behind on rent. I can't pay for Mom's meds. I'm drowning. Maria's face softened. She placed a gentle hand on her arm. Didn't say anything for a moment. Just let her cry. The diner around them felt like it disappeared. No customers. No boss barking orders. Just the two of them. You know you can't keep doing this to yourself, Maria finally whispered. She nodded. I know. Then quit. Walk out. You're better than this place. The words hurt. Because she wanted to. More than anything. But she couldn't. She shook her head. I can't. Maria frowned. Why not? She swallowed hard. Looked down at her trembling hands. Because if I leave, we're homeless. If I leave, Mom doesn't get her medicine. There's nowhere else to go. Maria's eyes glistened. But she didn't argue. Because she knew. Everyone in that diner knew. They were all just one missed paycheck away from the same thing. She wiped her eyes on the hem of her apron. Forced a shaky smile. Anyway, it is what it is. Maria shook her head sadly. No. It's what you have to do. For now. But promise me you won't forget it's not what you deserve. That cracked something inside her. A sob slipped out before she could stop it. Maria pulled her into a hug. Held her tight. Let her cry for real this time. No customers complained. No one yelled. For just a moment, the diner was quiet. Safe. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red but dry. She felt lighter. Just a little. Thanks. Maria squeezed her shoulder. Anytime, sweetheart. Don't let that old man break you. He's not worth it. But she knew. Deep down. She'd have to face him again tomorrow. Because she had no choice. The next morning felt like every other. She woke before dawn, cold creeping through the cracks in the walls. She got dressed in the dark so she wouldn't wake her mom. Laced up the battered sneakers she couldn't afford to replace. She walked to the diner in the gray half-light of early morning. Rain threatened again, dark clouds pressing low. But she didn't have an umbrella. She couldn't remember the last time she owned one. Inside the diner, the smell of burnt coffee and old grease was somehow comforting. Predictable. Safe in its own sad way. She tied on her apron. Pushed back her hair. Plastered on the smile. Fake but necessary. Maria was already there. She gave her a small nod. No words needed. They'd said enough yesterday. The bell over the door jingled. Her heart sank before she even turned. She knew. Somehow she always knew when it was him. The old man. That heavy, thunderous presence. Filling the room with his bitterness before he even spoke. He stomped to his usual booth. Didn't say hello. Didn't look at her. She gripped the coffee pot a little tighter. Forced herself to breathe. Counted to 3. Smiled. Good morning, sir. Coffee. He didn't answer. Didn't grunt. Didn't even lift his eyes. Just pushed his cup forward. She filled it carefully. No spills. No mistakes. Because he was waiting for one. Fresh pot. Just made. He didn't insult her this time. Didn't call it dishwater. Didn't mutter about lazy kids or respect. He just sat there. Silent. Brooding. But quiet. It rattled her. She didn't know what to do with the silence. It was almost worse than the insults. She cleared her throat. Anything else today? He still didn't answer. Just shook his head once. She hovered for a second. Wanted to ask why. Wanted to know what was going on in that lined, angry face. But she didn't. Because it wasn't her place. Because she was just the waitress. So she walked away. Maria caught her eye. Lifted her eyebrows. He behaving today? She shrugged. He's quiet. Maria snorted. Maybe hell froze over. But she didn't laugh. Because something about it didn't feel like victory. Something about the quiet felt heavy. Sad, even. Later, she saw him just watching. Not glaring. Not sneering. Just watching her work. She wiped tables. Refilled coffee. Took orders with that same tired smile. And every time she looked up, he was there. Eyes following her. Expression unreadable. It made her skin prickle. Made her heart pound. Not with fear, exactly. But with confusion. When he finally left, he didn't slam the door. Didn't say a word. But he left a tip. She didn't see it at first. She was too busy cleaning his table, ready to scrub away the last bit of him. But there it was. Folded under the chipped sugar dispenser. A $50 bill. She froze. Stared at it like it might bite her. Maria saw it too. He left that. She nodded slowly. Couldn't speak. Maria whistled low. Maybe he ain't the devil after all. She didn't know what to think. Didn't know if it was an accident. Didn't know if it was a message. Didn't know if it was a test. But she picked it up carefully. Tucked it into her apron. And tried not to cry. Because $50 wouldn't fix her life. But it was enough for her mom's medicine. Enough for a few days of breathing room. Enough to make her wonder if there was more to him than she thought. The next day felt different. She noticed it the second she walked into the diner. The air was thick with something she couldn't name. Not dread exactly. But not hope either. Just waiting. Maria greeted her with that same tired grin. Morning, superstar. She rolled her eyes. Don't. Maria just laughed. But she gave her arm a squeeze as she passed. They both knew what today might bring. Because he was coming. She felt it in her bones. She always knew. And sure enough, before the rush even started, the bell over the door jingled. She turned, breath-catching. There he was. Same overcoat. Same lined face. But today, something in his eyes was different. She couldn't name it. Didn't want to guess. She grabbed the coffee pot automatically. Her hands were steady today. She didn't know why. Maybe she was just too tired to shake anymore. She approached his booth slowly. Carefully. Like approaching a stray dog that might bite. Good morning, sir. He looked up at her. Really looked. And for the first time ever, she didn't see anger there. Just something close to sadness. He didn't grunt. Didn't insult her. Just pushed his cup forward. She poured. Steam rose between them like a veil. It's fresh. He nodded once. Held her gaze. And then he did something that nearly made her drop the pot. He spoke. Sit. She blinked. Heart thudding. I'm working. Sit. Please. The please landed like a punch. She didn't know what to do. Maria was watching from the counter, eyebrows raised. Finally, she slid onto the edge of the booth, apron bunched in her fists. He took a sip of coffee. Set it down carefully. His eyes never left hers. I've been coming here a long time. She nodded slowly. Didn't dare speak. Seen a lot of waitresses come and go. Most of them hated me. She swallowed hard. I don't. Don't lie, girl. You do. You should. She shut her mouth. Because he was right. He sighed. It sounded like it hurt. My wife used to work in a place like this. Before I made any money, she'd come home crying because of customers like me. He looked away then, out at the rain hitting the window. I swore I'd never forget that. But I did. Silence sat between them. Heavy, uncomfortable. She felt her eyes burn. Didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. Finally, he reached into his coat, pulled out an envelope, set it on the table. "That's for you." She shook her head. "I can't." "You will." She hesitated, then picked it up. It was thick. Too thick. "What is this?" "A start." Her fingers trembled. She didn't open it. She couldn't. "Why?" she whispered. He stared at her, eyes shiny with something she refused to name. "Because you remind me of her. Because you didn't deserve any of it. Because I should have known better." He stood up slowly, joints cracking. Dropped some bills on the table. "Way too much for coffee. Talk to your boss after your shift." "Why?" "Because you're not just a waitress. You're the new manager if you want it." She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, just sat there clutching the envelope like it was life itself. He turned at the door, looked back once. "Fresh pot tomorrow?" She nodded, tears streaming now. Didn't even try to wipe them. "Fresh pot. I promise." And then he was gone. She sat in that booth long after he was gone. The coffee had gone cold. The rain kept drumming against the glass, steady and patient. She stared at the envelope in her hands like it might vanish if she blinked. Finally, Maria slid in beside her. No jokes, no teasing, just warmth, just care. "You gonna open it?" She swallowed hard, nodded. Her fingers felt clumsy, like they didn't belong to her. When she pried it open, bills spilled out onto the table. 50s, hundreds, more money than she'd ever held at once in her life. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Her eyes burned hot. Maria's breath caught. "Holy!" She shushed her automatically, even though no one was listening. Her whole body shook, not with fear, not with anger, but with relief. It wasn't just the money, though that alone meant she could pay the rent. Buy the medicine. Eat something other than day-old diner toast. It was the note tucked inside, written in shaky, careful handwriting. "For every time I made you feel small, for every time someone like me made her cry, don't give up." She pressed it to her chest and let the tears come. Ugly, uncontrolled, real. When the boss called her into the back later, she thought for sure it was to yell. Her eyes were still red. Her hair was a mess. She didn't care. He looked uncomfortable. Wouldn't meet her eyes. "He told me to give you this." It was a business card. Fancy. Embossed. Regional manager. Hiring director. She blinked. "What is this?" He cleared his throat. "He owns this place. All of them. Says he's giving you a chance. Manager training. Full benefits. You want it." Her mouth dropped open. She looked at Maria standing behind him, beaming like a proud mom. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Maria whispered. So she did. She said yes, and meant it. That night she didn't walk home. She floated, even in the rain, even with the cold seeping into her bones. She clutched the envelope to her chest like a shield. A promise. Proof that kindness wasn't wasted. That being good still mattered. She let herself imagine a future for once. A real one. Not just survival, but living. And the next morning, she brewed the coffee herself. Made sure it was fresh. Hot. Perfect. She set it on his usual table before he even sat down. When he walked in, he paused. Looked at her with those tired eyes. Nodded once. Almost smiled. She smiled back. For real this time. "Good morning, sir. Fresh pot. Just for you." If you believe that even the smallest kindness can change a life, don't forget to like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had your life changed by a stranger's act? And subscribe for more soul-twisting stories that remind us all why it matters to keep our hearts open.